Hi, so in this episode, I'll talk about how to grow truffle, what is truffle, and what is the best environment to grow truffle. Please enjoy. Guys, back with me again, Rafael Satria in 104 Melbourne FM. Here I'm at Black Cat Truffle. Black Cat Truffle. I'm with Mr.
Andres Haas.
Hi. How are you?
Hi, how are you? So we've got a thousand tree truffier in the Central Highlands between Ballarat and Daylesford, a mixture of English oak and French oak, of which the French oak produce most of our truffles. This area is excellent for growing truffles because we have nice cold winters. We usually have a fair bit of rain through the summer period. And the other component that you really need for good truffles is a high pH soil, but we can manage that by addition of lime to the soil. So we added 120 tonnes of lime to our 6 acres of truffles to raise it from about 5.5 to 7.5.
Do you put the whole lime, literally the whole
It's a powder. It's like beach sand almost. So a truck goes down between the middle of the rows and just sprays it out everywhere. It's like a huge dust storm. Every 2 years we top it up with about 25 to 30 tonnes of lime, just to keep it up in that sweet zone between 7.5 and 8. So truffles really like that high pH environment. We planted back in 2007, and it took us 5 years to get our first truffle. We got 1.5 kilos that first year. Last year, in our 12th year, we're in our 12th year now. Last year we got about 45 kilos. We expect between 60 to 65 kilos this year. So it keeps increasing, and it'll keep increasing for another 5 or 6 years, we expect, and then it'll plateau out. If we go by industry averages, we'll probably produce around 120 kilos for our 6 acres. So yeah.
From your first 5 years, what were your struggle?
Well, it's just the trees are growing, and they typically always produce around about year 4 or year 5. As inoculation techniques get better on the seedlings, we often find people are getting truffles in year 4. But with the older truffiers that are over 10 years old, the inoculation techniques weren't as good for the initial seedlings. So typically year 5 to 7 is where people start getting truffles. We got ours at year 5.
So if I may know, when you first start your business, you buy the trees, or
We buy seedlings, and they're about 30 centimetres tall when we buy them.
I see.
We bought them from a provider in Tasmania, but these days we get all our replacement trees from a nurseryman in the Yarra Valley. So we get.
So I was just wondering, you said before climate, temperature, and the soil.
Yeah, you need. The dog's turned up. It's all about soil temperature to make the truffles ripen. You need warm temperatures at the beginning of summer, so beginning of December, for them to germinate and start their growing process. And then you need cold ground temperatures in, say, May, June, July, August. If you don't get cold ground temperatures, you will never ripen truffles. So it is specific to the southern areas of Australia and northern Tasmania, and all up the eastern seaboard, southern Western Australia. Northern Australia, you won't get truffles ever. It's just too warm, too hot. The ground never gets those cold temperatures.
So I was wondering, because I'm from Indonesia,
Yeah.
which is, I think the whole year is not warm, hot.
Yeah.
But we do have some area that is actually cold, but I don't know.
If you get enough altitude, you can get a drop in temperature. In Spain, the prolific areas are northeastern Spain in Catalonia, but you can get it further south as long as you go up in altitude. So yeah, altitude can help. There are some growers in Queensland, up in the tablelands. So even though Queensland down on the flats, down by the coast, is hot, up in the tablelands it's quite cool. So you can grow truffles up there as well.
So you reckon there is still that small chance of possibility, or no?
There's always a chance. Try it. I don't know.
Because I used to think like it's impossible, but you know,
It's impossible.
along
There are some
this year-
varieties of truffle that are more tolerant to variation as well. The summer truffle especially has a much wider
I
tolerance
see.
of temperatures and soil conditions.
Ah.
The black winter one is, I don't know. If you get enough altitude and you have good drainage, good rainfall, especially through summer, it could work.
And if I may ask you, actually, how many varieties
Is there like a lot of varieties of truffle? Because I only know black and white.
Yeah, there's about 6 different types of truffle that
Six?
are. Well, no, there are actually hundreds. I mean, Australia has probably 200 or 300 native truffles, but none of them have any commercial value because no one knows what to do with them, and we don't know whether they're edible or not. But there are about 6 commercial types of truffle. There's the white magnatum, which cannot be cultivated. No one's managed to do that yet, and so that's why it's 3 times as expensive. It's only found in the wild in that narrow band at the north of the Mediterranean, Italy, Croatia, and a bit of Hungary. Then the black winter truffle, which we harvest, we propagate. That's quite easy to grow. It's a known product. There's also a whitish truffle, which is fairly easy to grow, called the Borki. It's different from the white truffle, but it's a whitish truffle. Then there's the summer truffle. There's a Brumali, which is in Europe is a lower quality truffle, but still accepted as a valid, has some culinary value. In Australia, it's considered a pest truffle because it outcompetes the black winter truffle that we're trying to grow. And then, unfortunately, there's the Chinese truffle, which looks for all the world like the black winter truffle, but has almost no aroma or flavour. So they say that 25% of black truffle in Europe is substituted with Chinese truffle because they mix it in with the good truffle. You can't tell the difference visibly until you get it back home in the kitchen and you go, there's nothing there, no flavour, no aroma. I regularly, it looks the same.
Visual,
so outside, inside, it looks the same. I regularly get people contacting me through Alibaba saying, I can sell you a kilo of Chinese truffle for $80. Australian prices are between $2,500 and $3,000 a kilo, and they can sell it to me for $80 a kilo. I don't want it. I know it's going to be rubbish. So yeah, it's just one of those scams.
I see. And I heard that you sometimes use dog and pig to be able to...
Yeah, the deal with pigs is quite bizarre. Nature has decided that the female pig, the sow, is sexually attracted to truffles because the aroma is similar to the pheromones given off by the boar when they're in heat. So it's a sex thing for the pig. But the problem is the pig will eat the truffle and then take off the end of your finger when you try to take it out of its mouth. So everybody pretty much uses dogs. Old French truffle hunters might still use a pig, but everybody though in a commercial environment would use a dog.
Actually, it works the same?
Yeah, it works the same. Well, a dog works. I mean, they're scent-based creatures. They're easy to train. You can reward them. They'll just say, yep, if I find that smell, I'll get a reward of food or a ball or whatever turns them on. So, yeah, they're easy to train.
How do you see this business truffle like in like back 10 years ago or
10 years
like
ago,
as in
the
if you
future as well.
compare, let's say 2019 is the pinpoint, and then how do you see your business before 2019 and in the future?
Well, when we started 12 years ago, we actually used to buy truffle from Tasmania and we used to do a producer's day in Dalesford, and we used to give free tastings of truffled scrambled eggs. 8 years ago when we were doing that, no one knew anything about truffles. Everybody was scared of it. All they knew was it's expensive and there are pigs involved. That's literally all they knew. Now the awareness in Australia has grown dramatically to the point where pretty much everybody knows of truffles or has tasted truffle or tried something or wants to, and the demand is growing. So from 8 years ago when nobody knew anything, now it's a hot product. So unfortunately, if you plant now, you won't get anything for 10 years, or enough to be a commercial value. We know that the production in Australia over the next 5 years will double. So we've got about 10 tonnes last year, we expect. So in 5 years' time, we know that the trees that are in the ground will produce estimates. They'll double. In 5 years after that, it'll double again. So in 10 years' time, we'll probably produce 40 tonnes of truffle. At the moment, Australia is the 4th largest producer of truffle in the world. We will at least get to 3rd over the next 10 years. So,
who's number one? France?
France normally, but over the last 2 years, they've actually, and probably this year as well, they've had really bad production because very, very few of their truffiers are irrigated. Only 5% apparently are irrigated. So if they have a hot, long, dry summer, very low production. Last year they only produced about 15 tonnes of truffle. We produced 10 tonnes conservatively, and so we expect actually this year we'll produce maybe even more than France did in their season. So yeah, that's a bit of bragging rights there, but normally they would produce a lot more. And then, so it's France, Spain, Italy, really in that sort of order.
Do you do export?
We don't export yet because we won't produce enough. You really have to be producing over 100 kilos before you even think about exporting. There are consolidators, there are wholesalers we would sell to in Australia, and they do export. So probably
They put it in the freezer?
80% of Australian truffle is exported. And 60 to 70% of Australian truffle comes out of Manjimup in Western Australia. But if you ask the Western Australians, they'll say that 90% comes out of Western Australia.
Well, I think thank you so much,
No worries.
Andres,
That's a short
for
product
having.
history.
It's been a pleasure to having you in my podcast, and I hope that I can see you in a
future.
couple of years, probably the next.
All right.
years.
Thanks for coming
Thank
out.
you so
It's been
much.
a good day.
Thank you so much. Gila, itu tadi podcast gue yang sangat legit sepertinya. Baru pertama kali saya mewawancarai bule. Ya. Tapi gue seneng banget bisa ada di travel sini. I will see you in the next podcast. Like, comment, share, dan subscribe kalau kalian pikir channel gue bermanfaat. Komen dong, kalian cupu, kalian komen dong, kirim email gitu, nanya apa gitu, yang biar gue ada kerjaan dikit gitu loh. Dasar. Bye bye.